guys, how you doing? Welcome to the Academic Answers podcast. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. And we're coming to you at a time when the world, I don't know when you will be listening this, because this is what we call digital content that does live for a very long time. Like most other intellectual pieces, they like to categorize them, do sit around for a minute. The books, the Bible is how many thousands of years old. Books, literature, anything you have out there that you have longevity. I don't know when you will be listening to this. I'm coming to you at a time when this virus known as coronavirus, COVID-19 disease that stems from this virus called the coronavirus is rampant around the world. 2020, on March 19th, and we're seeing over 200,000 cases spread across 115 countries, and the world is on somewhat lockdown. People are closing their borders. Australia's closed its borders. England has closed its borders. It started in Wuhan, China, and it spread across China. Many, the death tolls are piling up. We're getting into the thousands or tens of thousands, and people are being infected. There's no vaccine for this thing. This thing is has come with a lot of uncertainty. Nobody fully understands it. This virus has been around since the 70s, but this is a new strain of the virus that there's no vaccine for, and it is a deadlier strain where the infection rate is above 2%. The death rate is above 2%, and it is highly infectious. It has swept through China and has really caused problems, has caused a lot of deaths. The bodies are piling up in Italy, and in the US all sort of stuff is happening. The stock market has plunged over 10,000 points since this disease has touched our borders, and the world is uncertain at this point in time. We're playing catch up. The world is not prepared, and that's the time we're in right now. Nobody knows what will happen. The next 4 to 10 weeks will be incredibly interesting. This economy, the world economy, might go into a recession. There's been 13 years of good times. The last recession was about 2008. It's been 12 years of good times, and now we're sitting on a pile of uncertainties all over again. And this member of my community, young kid, he don't mind me identify who he is for to some extent. He's a young kid living in India. India is having just around 5 cases. Not much of it is over there, and he's saying that the either you always talk about. I'm watching the news in the US and in England, and I'm seeing the outrage and I'm seeing the uncertainties. And either you always talk about a freedom is being played out in a different way, but freedom is freedom on international scene. Would you mind expounding on the idea of freedom and why it's so important, and why you are always pushing that line? And this is just such a beautiful question, because people are now, my barber cannot come to work, hairdressers, nail techs, a whole line of small businesses are in just a panic mode right now. They're in a mode of uncertainty. They're fearful for their families, for their business. They don't know if they'll be able to provide, because in New York City, in the state of New York, they cannot open these places. We have restaurants, we have bars, we have lounges, all these businesses where the contact, the social space, as it is said, is not ideal for the stemming of the virus, because there's this wave. I think New York moved from 80 to 300 to 500 to 900 to 1500 in 2 weeks, and those numbers are based on tests. There is at least between 30 to 40% of people who have not being tested who probably have the virus, because they cannot get tests. They're setting up drive-through centers. The CDC and the federal government is doing a lot of work to try to catch up with this thing. So what are we talking about? We're talking about a global pandemic, and 115 countries. Now, people freedom has been snatched away from them, and people are now, for maybe the first time in their lives, experiencing not being able to go out there. The last time we have something that come close to this was probably in the 1918, when there was a measles that killed 50 million people. There has been the bird flu, there has been SARS, there's been Ebola, there's been a whole ton load of stuff, but it has been contained for the most part before the measles. And polio that has killed millions, tens of millions of babies in India has been kind of contained until, you know, vaccines start to get in there. But this one is the most deadly, the deadliest one in modern times, and people's freedom has been cut off. One go, no bullets, no mayhem, just overnight. People wake up and realize that, look, I have to stock up on supplies because I don't know when the next set of supplies coming in. Look, I have to get food for my family. I don't have a job. They say don't come to work. I don't know how for 2 weeks they will pay, but I don't know what will happen after. People are necessarily going to cut jobs, and hotels are closing down in the Caribbean in vast numbers. Flights are cut off. The airports are shut down, and it is a standstill, a freeze, a problem, an issue of what people can or cannot do. And we talk about this on this thing all the time, about what people can or cannot do being the root of happiness, being the root of a fulfilled life, being able to choose when, what, how. Freedom, we call it. And freedom comes from control. You being in control, you holding your own steering wheel, you holding your own compass, being deciding that you can do X, deciding that you can do Y. There's this guy that this real estate mogul that about 2 weeks in, when this thing got to about one case in Florida where he is, and this thing started to spread across the US, and those cases started to balloon up, he just get up before the rush started, before everybody got excited, and he got up, he did the video of it, got up, went to the supermarket, stocked himself up, and he says, look, I'm in my penthouse, I'm with my family, I'm good. He's not moving. He doesn't have to move. He doesn't have to go for supplies in the rush. He doesn't have to worry about income, whether or not he has enough money when this blow over, or if he needs to jump on his private jet and go somewhere. He has freedom, and that freedom gives him that level of options to be able to be that person for his family when the time comes. The freedom to not have to do, the freedom to not have to move, the freedom not have to wait on somebody to tell him what to do or to tell him when to do it. That is what the world is experiencing now. Some people don't want to be out there. Some people don't want to be working. Some people don't want to be in contact, but they have no choice because they don't have freedom. They don't control the major variables in their lives. What they do, when they do it, and with whom they do it. We call them 3 big W's. What they do, when they do it, and with whom they do it. Huge, huge, huge determining factor for your happiness. People work with a boss that they hate, but they got to do it. You can't choose who. People don't want to wake up in the mornings. They would prefer to work at night, but they can't choose. They just got to do it. They can't decide when. People don't like to be at certain places, but they can't. In the train and the bus, at certain functions and meetings, but they can't choose. They have to be there because they can't choose where they go and what they do and with whom they do. People work jobs that they hate, but they have to do it for money because they can't have the leverage, and they don't have the option to choose what they do for money. So freedom is coming home in the hardest of weights. It hit hard. It's hanging. It's glaring now that when you don't have control, you don't have freedom. And when you don't have freedom, you hardly have anything that is fundamental to your happiness. Because that freedom to choose, that freedom to act, that freedom to decide, that freedom to do is the hallmark of human life. We look at places in the Eastern world that are less liberal, for want of a better word. We find that these places are pushing, the millennials, younger generation are pushing for freedom. They're not pushing for freedom. Remember I told you that the human mind is most conditioned by upbringing and genetics. And they were brought up in a docile type of less freedom, less liberal society. So by nature they are, but they're still pushing for the freedom, the right to what one president called to life, to liberty, and to the pursuit of happiness. And he said that he believed that all humans were endowed by the Creator with that, the right to life, the right to freedom, the right to pursue happiness. And people want that. No matter who you are, you want that. Nothing feels better than having those options. That's why I'm always pushing for freedom, so you can have your options at your disposal, so you can have your options to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whom you want to do it. Now you are seeing that when they say you can't go out, you see how it feels. When they say you can't run your business, you see how it feels. This is just a one-off situation, but that's when someone is telling you that you can't. Imagine when no one is telling you that you can't, but you have to. So nobody's telling that you can't leave work, but you have to stay there. Nobody's telling you that you can't send your child to another school, but you have to send him to the one that you don't like to send him. And more, as your life goes down the path of servitude, of being connected to someone else's dream and disconnected from yours, and living the humdrum, regular life of just doing what other people tell you to do, more and more your spirit is being stifled, and more you feel like life has no meaning, because you have not gotten to the point of absolute and total freedom to decide how you live and what experiences your life have on a daily basis. You have a duty to be free. You have a duty to free your family. And when I speak, a lot of times I don't think people understand that I'm not speaking from a position of you waking up one day and being free. I'm speaking from a position of you understanding that this is important to your life, and that you now need to take every effort to live your life in pursuit of that freedom. Not that it will happen today, not that it will happen next month, not that it will happen next year, not that it will happen in the next 2 years or in the next 5 years, but in the consciousness that what you're doing today determines what happened next week, determine what happened next year, determine what happens next 2, 3, 4 years. So I encourage you to build a habit, the skills, and to live the lifestyle that maps, that optimize toward freedom. Everybody's optimized towards a certain result, because how you spend your time, how you spend your money is exactly the map towards the results you will get in your life. So right now, the way you're spending your time and your money is mapped towards a certain direction. And what people do, people expect to end up with a certain result because they think that it is a one-off event. They live their lives on events, not realizing that it is the direction that is important, because you cannot change directions overnight. You cannot change destinations overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. You cannot change a destination overnight. You cannot suddenly wake up and you're sick because you used to eat too much bad, unhealthy food and decide that, okay, I don't want to be sick, let me go back. You cannot do that. Let me be not sick. You will have to suffer those consequences, and there's a healing process if it is possible to be healed, and you have to go through that. But you can change your direction. You can decide, where do I go from here? Overnight, one snap, one go. That's the only thing. I think it's George Bernard Shaw who said that the only thing that separates a man from a pig is his mind. Every other organ they have, your mind, for the most part, is what separates you from everything else as a human being. You can wake up right now and exercise the judgment, make the decision, the choices at a snap. Other animals have to live by innate natures and instincts. They must do that. You don't have to do that. A tree cannot suddenly get up and say, I don't want to stay here. Or an animal cannot get up and say, okay, I want to survive without hair. I don't want hair. I'm not that type of animals. Or I don't want to eat meat anymore. I'm going to eat grass. Human beings can do that. So you have the power to decide the experiences that you have. And everything that you do, every time that you spend, every money, every resources, everything that you do must be mapped and optimized towards freedom. And that's the only way to ensure that your life turns out the way you want to turn out, and that you can provide experiences for yourself and your family that you feel are important and necessary. Thank you, guys. Remember, when all this is done, when all these things have passed, God bless your life. I hope you can survive this, and I hope you can ride through this storm. All of us really do need that. But my friends, it is imperative that you seek to take control, take over the reins of your life, and steer it in the direction that you most like. By spending your time and your resources in the direction of where you want your life to go. Thank you.